Rachel Notley is a bully. We know that. She tried to keep the rebel off of legislature property. She even sent a sheriff with a gun to do it, followed up by a lawyer's letter. Well, that blew up in her face, so she hired this woman, Heather Boyd, to write a report on the whole subject and paid her 10 grand to do it. Not bad for a couple weeks' work. Well, today, Heather Boyd released the report on a Friday afternoon. What does that tell you? They're trying to hide it. It was a padded report, 122 pages, most of which was just cut and paste from press gallery constitutions around the country. You're making that much dough, you gotta make it look a little bit more work. I know that trick from high school when you don't have a lot to say in an essay. There are two atrocious things in this report that we're gonna fight tooth and nail. I'm gonna tell you what they are. Heather Boyd recommended, and I'm gonna quote, number two, her second recommendation, while wide open access to legislative bodies may be ideal in a democracy, security concerns and the need to maintain a semblance of order make that impractical. The Alberta government would be wise to follow the lead of other jurisdictions and let journalists decide questions of accreditation. This protects government from the perception of bias. This is not a perfect solution, and several journalists have made it clear they do not believe they should be subject in any way to control by their peers, but it appears to be the best compromise. Well, hang on. She switched gears there. She said security, but Sheila Reid was not kicked out for security reasons. She was kicked out because Rachel Notley hates the rebel. A compromise using other journalists to vote to keep us out by using accreditation? That's unacceptable. You can't do indirectly what you can't do directly. The Charter of Rights protects our freedom of the press. That's atrocious. Here's her second recommendation with which I deeply disagree. Number 4. The Alberta Legislature Press Gallery says it lacks the resources to assume responsibility for day-to-day accreditation. Give serious consideration to setting up a mechanism akin to the Secretariat in Ottawa, where staff funded by the House of Commons assist the press gallery with accreditation of daily events. Funding could be made available by Alberta's Legislative Assembly through the Speaker's office, not through the government itself. Such a system could involve vetting of qualifications, security checks, and enforcement of rules and code of conduct. Hang on a second. So Heather Boyd thinks that the Speaker's office is not part of the government, and funding for government staffers to help vet my qualifications and my code of conduct. She doesn't think that's government vetting, and she's recommending this. Is there some sort of problem? There are only 6 journalists who regularly cover the legislature in Alberta. Could you imagine bringing in more rules to vet them? Maybe whittle it down to 5, 4. How low would Rachel Notley like to go in terms of the number of journalists keeping her honest? Well, I know the answer. She'll do anything to keep the rebel out. And it looks like in Heather Boyd, she's found a willing ex-journalist to take 10 grand to make that recommendation. Even more worrisome, today I heard that some journalists in the Alberta Press Gallery are talking to the Premier about taking funding from the government to vet the qualifications and standards of other journalists. Well, let me close this way. I threatened to go to court if Rachel Notley was the bully here. And I will go to court to let Sheila Gunn Reid into government press opportunities if the bullying has been delegated to a cartel of our competitors taking cash or direction from the government. Rachel Notley tried to kick the rebel out of the legislature with a sheriff and with a Department of Justice lawyer. She failed because it blew up in her face in the national media. Now she's trying, through her hand-picked, highly paid former journalist, to get other reporters to do us in. That will not work. That will not stand. We will fight every inch, and you will be kept informed of this by us, the only journalists in Canada, telling it like it is. For the Rebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant. Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.